Incoming transmission.
The Klingonese word of the day is Queej.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile.
Live long and prosper.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order and occasionally interviewing franchise influencers for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian Mr. Todd A. Davis. For the better part of a decade, one company, founded by friends, has dedicated themselves to delivering to the game master opportunities to make the game better for the players. Now, that company, Beadle Grimm, is aiming to give Trek fans an experience, strike that, 2 new experiences like no other. He is the project lead on Star Trek Picard, Murder on the TITAN-A mystery game, head production goblin, and co-founder of Beadle Grimm. It's Jon Ciccolini. Yay, Jon!
Huzzah!
Welcome.
Thank you. That is an outstanding introduction. Maybe one of the best I've ever heard.
Oh, hey, awesome. Well, another co-founder of Beadle Grimm, supreme marketing goblin, and project lead on Star Trek Strange New Worlds escape room game, Mary Celeste. It's Charlie Rehor. Yay, Charlie!
That's a very, very Muppet welcome. Thank you.
Yes, I have said, ever since I started doing this, I was trying to think of a unique way to bring people in, and I've always said I think everyone deserves to be introed by Kermit the Frog at least once.
Yes. Once. Just once.
Yeah, just once. Just the one time. Guys, thank you so much for carving out the time to chat with me today. As of this release, we are in the last week of the Kickstarter campaign for the new Trek games. How are we feeling?
Pretty happy. It's fun. Always fun to connect directly with people, and that's one of the fun things that Kickstarter gives you. So you get a lot of feedback, and a lot of people telling you how excited they are about the products, and nice pointed questions always.
Yes.
But it's been really fun. It's always heartwarming to see the level of support we get.
Yeah, you guys were fully funded because it wasn't long, right? You guys were fully funded pretty quickly.
2.5 hours. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Jeez Louise, that's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
So I won't beat around the bush. Let's get right into it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time asking you how the company got started. That's been well documented elsewhere. But as a DM, I know the very real issue of decision paralysis. Was there ever a hesitation or a questioning of like, are we going to do this? Is this for real? Like when it came to the creation of Beadle Grimm as a company?
I mean, we are the decision paralysis company. I mean, that is what we do. Well, yeah, for sure.
What were those conversations like? What was the tipping over of just kind of like, all right, we're all in, let's jump?
Yeah, attend any of our meetings and you will see decision paralysis in action, like epitomized. But yeah, in the very beginning, it was surprisingly universally accepted. I think in the very, very beginning.
Oh, wow.
When we thought about this idea of creating a high-end collector's edition for a game master, at the time, things have changed since then, but at the time, it was like nobody seemed to be doing that. Mm. You had these collector editions in all other areas of even entertainment. But with D&D and with games like that, we were like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm a guy without a lot of time, and now I have a little extra money. Where's that big collector's box edition for me? And everybody, I think at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, but I think everybody at the time agreed, yeah, that is something that is an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that immediately translated into a lot of thrashing around about what that would actually look like and what would actually end up in the box. But no, it was it was a little different because we were all kind of narrowed behind one thing, because it was all we could possibly do at that moment was to put, we were all at day jobs, so putting one thing together was the exact limit of our intellectual capacity. Now the problem is we have a vastly expanded map of places we could go, and so now there's more decisions to make. So it's we haven't returned to that. We've lost that idyllic time where there was just one yes or no, go forward or not.
Back when things were simple.
Exactly.
I'm running an actual play here in town with comedians and drag performers, and our last session involved them having to decide whether to save their patron's sick child or an orphanage full of sick children. And the decision-making process and that's what prompted me to write this thing about decision paralysis. Was it was thick in the air of just all of these big personalities going, I don't know.
It's the trolley problem. I gotta say, if that's where you've hit player paralysis, you're doing better job than our party usually hits that same sort of conundrum over a T intersection or a locked door with a vague noise behind it. That's 30 minutes right there.
Oh wow. Yeah.
John's our DM, so he could tell you ad nauseum.
I can attest to that. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. God, I would love to be a fly on the wall for one of those sessions. But I bet there's a lot of laughs had nonetheless, right?
I never laugh as hard as when we're playing those games. For sure.
No doubt.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things that we value here on the show is education. If I could get a little glimpse into your backgrounds, where did you guys go to school and what did you study?
I went to the University of Kansas. Even back then, I knew I wanted to be theater, acting, movies, production. And so I went there. And then from there, I went to Circle in the Square acting school in New York. And that's where I met Bill, who's one of our other owners, Matthew Lillard, who was my roommate while we were there. Paul, who is one of the other owners. So we all met there and we all started playing D&D while we were in school. Having studied acting, I'll give your audience a little known fact.
Yes.
That I played an alien in Star Trek Voyager.
Get the hell out of here.
So everything sort of comes full circle. I played an alien on Star Trek Voyager, and here I am now project managing a Star Trek murder mystery game. So it's super fun little nugget of trivia.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So just really quickly, like what was were you buried in prosthetics or was it something small, or do you recall?
I was not buried in prosthetics. It was just sort of we like to call it the bony ridge on the nose.
Yes.
I think the episode was called In the Blink of an Eye. And I am in that. I play a alien astronomer in that episode.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm gonna have to contain. Like, I was nerd gushing before we started rolling. I'm gonna have to really reel it in now. Charlie, how about you? Where'd you go to school? What'd you study?
I went to University of Washington in Seattle. I studied scientific and technical communications, which is like a fancy way of saying technical writing.
Wow.
But I was an RTC. So after college, I was in the Navy for 4 years. And then I went and got a graduate degree from University of New Orleans in Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And then decided to do neither of those things and was a software engineer for years and years and years until I joined Beadle Grimm. I know Bill from a long time. Seeing he's my brother.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of the nepotism hire here. Those guys all went to school, and then I got brought in as the brother.
Well, you saved me from my inevitable Todd asks a stupid question of, "Hey, how do you know how do you know the guys?"
Yeah.
Do you mind if I asked whereabouts you spent your time in the service? We've had a lot of service members on the show,
Yep.
and I always like to at least get kind of the overview of the timeline of service.
Yeah, I was an officer on the USS Leftwich,
Cool.
which is a destroyer out of Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
And we were actually part of Desert Shield and Desert Storm, one of the three ships who were close enough to getting shot at to actually end up with combat action ribbons out of the whole thing.
Wow. Yeah, one of the folks that's in the actual play and has been on the show a couple times was the engineer on the USS Enterprise on the aircraft carrier.
Well,
So yeah, and he told, and while he was on the aircraft carrier is where he learned to play D&D. I said, if you don't write your story, you're an idiot. His memoirs are available on Amazon now.
oh, fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
We refueled from one of those once, like 120 feet away in seas, and you just have no idea how frippin' big those things are until
It's
you're
it's a city.
up next to one of them.
Yeah. My wife and I, when we went to New York, this is last year, we went to there in Hell's Kitchen, the USS Intrepid. But up on the flight deck is where they have the Space Shuttle Enterprise. And walking under the dock, it's a floating building.
Yeah.
The thing is massive. So yeah, wow. Well, thank you for your service. So fellas, your education, you didn't major in gaming, but do you feel like your education served you well here working for Beadle and Grimm's?
Yeah, I mean, in both ways, I think. I mean, a lot of the stuff we do is very creative, so that's the creative writing degree, but also a lot of it's kind of fairly technical or, like format oriented, which is the tech writing part of my education, although both those things were an embarrassing number of decades ago. So, I mean, honestly, I would almost say it the other way. I think one of the things that's been really fun about Beadle and Grimm's is, personally, I was a software engineer. I know John was basically in the same sort of role for a long time. I was a software engineer for 20 years or so.
Mhm.
And you get pretty good at, not that you know everything, but you know sort of the framework of everything. If there's something new you got to learn, it fits with something you've learned previously or something. And almost everything I've done at Beadle and Grimm's is starts with, I don't know how the blank to do this. I guess I'm gonna have to figure it out. And it's kind of fun.
Yeah, we produced a show called Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill.
Yes.
We did it as a TV show for Dungeons and Dragons Adventures channel, but we also do live shows. And when someone told me that I could put together improv theater with dungeon mastering, I was in heaven. Like the two things that I have spent decades working on, combined into one is, just felt like a perfect combination of elements. And so, yeah, for sure, that has played a part in what I do for Beadle and Grimm's.
Awesome. Beadle and Grimm's has made a name for themselves with licensing some very recognizable IPs from Wizards of the Coast, primarily Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, amongst others. But Star Trek is definitely a different vibe. Like, who had the idea? What was the discussion? What was the genesis?
This was one of those things where opportunity meets preparation, right? We know somebody that is a friend of ours who works pretty high up at Paramount. And she knew that we were very successful doing these high-end products for Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. So we used her as an in to talking with the right people at Paramount. And if we didn't have the years of experience, right, and the website and the proof of concept from all of the work that we did for Dungeons and Dragons and for Magic and for Pathfinder and some of the other IPs that we've worked with, including, we did some stuff for Darrington Press, Critical Role. We probably would not have gotten that meeting, right? But it was opportunity meets preparation, and boom, we're in the room, and they said, "Yeah, we are interested. Here are the intellectual properties that you might be interested in." And when we knew that we wanted to do murder mysteries, Star Trek jumped out at us as this is a perfect fit. And so we're hoping to be able to do a lot more of that.
You mentioned having an in, and these one of the things that has become very apparent to me in the brief time few years that I've been DMing myself are the relationships formed. Talk a little bit about the friendships, because I mean, out of the friendships came the company, but you guys have gone on to DM for a who's who of nerdy celebrities through Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill, and I'm sure they're in the live shows at the Comedy Store there in LA. Talk a little bit about the friendships and things that come out of these friendships at the table. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of honesty that comes to the surface very quickly. Like, you see, like, this person's a little more chaotic than they would lead you to believe in their everyday civilian life. Has any of that become apparent to you? Do you have any funny anecdotes about, the relationships that have come to the surface in the game?
One thing that struck us from day one when we kind of walked into that the first Wizards sponsored event where we had a booth and we were, Roll20 had a booth and all these, we were all joined together for that. One thing that struck us immediately was everybody was rooting for us, and everybody was just rooting for everybody else in the community to, this whole rising tide floats all boats kind of thing. But even just at a more fundamental level is that's cool. I hope it's successful. How can we help you make it successful? And we've seen that with our own projects. We saw that, Fast Purple Worm was ours, but I mean, just from that first box launch to everybody immediately, when we say, hey, we need help put this, Faster Purple Worm thing together, everybody's, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'm in. And that has been really it was kind of surprising at first. So we kind of almost take it for granted now, but it's a really bright, fun part of our community is that it is a community and everybody kind of wants to help each other as much as they can.
Yeah, for sure. We have developed some great working relationships with folks that we started gaming with in the beginning. I can call out Nora Ibrahim is a well-known streaming gamer. We gamed with her early on and we just really clicked with her, and now she does box unboxings for our website, and she helped us produce the TV show. She was involved every step of the way. So some great relationships formed there. I will say that as important as those relationships are on the business side, there's nothing like the relationship of the lifelong friendships of my home game. Like Luis Carrazzo, he's very well known. He's done a bunch of Critical Role streaming. He's in my home game. My brother is in my home game. Nobody watches those. Nobody streams those. That home game for me is a lifesaver. It is something I look forward to so much, and something that is just a touchstone for me. Seeing my brother, seeing my best friends. We try as much as we can to be around the table and not just like Zoom, like being in the room and breaking bread and playing. There's just nothing like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I will say, because I'm still kind of on the fringes of the gaming community, but I'm kind of hip deep, or well, I'm neck deep in the Star Trek community. And it sounds like that's where the Venn diagram is everybody in the Star Trek community is very much, it's a family. It truly is a family. This past, earlier this year, I was actually able to go to my first Star Trek convention. and I'd been to pop culture conventions before, but the vibe was so different. Everybody was everybody else's long lost friend, and it was such a it was such a bright point of my year and my overall experience. I was like, oh man, this is going to spoil me for other conventions. But it's nice to hear that the gaming community is sounds like they're gonna Trek community and the gaming community are gonna go hand in hand for sure. So I know from talking with a few other folks at IDW, the comics publisher, that working in Star Trek has its own set of challenges. Now you talked about how you had an in with Paramount and that sort of got the ball rolling. But once it was rolling, how was it working with CBS Paramount, knowing that they keep their cards pretty close to the chest? And, Star Trek is that one IP that's kind of, it's pretty sacred, not only on the business side, but for the fan side. How was it working with them?
Great, actually. It's fun, and it's kind of the opposite of what we were afraid of going in. I think you're right. I mean, it's a big, intimidating sort of IP that has multiple universes, decades of history to it. So you're always kind of afraid of in these circumstances is everything that you present, they're just going to say, no, that violates this, or this is wrong about it. But it's kind of been the opposite. It's kind of been, if we have a question, how would you do this? What would be the best way to do this? They've been really good with coming back and providing specific, suggestions, not just no, but you can't do that, but here's what you could do instead. And that would make more sense and probably work better anyway. And it stays within the canon. So they've been like basically a resource for us more than anything else. I mean, they're a big company, so there's processes and things you got it, but that is something that we're well accustomed to working with after Wizards of the Coast and lots of other big companies. So no, it's been great.
Yeah, no, I'll just add that, it's also important for us to respect that brand, right? And that IP and that canon. And so it was, we're gonna try and be the best partner possible by when we present something to them, we're bringing in experts. We've done our homework, right? We're not going to try and pitch something to them that is not within that Star Trek canon. And so, part of our job is finding people like Anne and like Spencer and making sure that what we're presenting sails through approval.
One of the things that I found kind of staggering was the timeline, because from what I found, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the announcement for Picard, the murder mystery game, Murder on the Titan-A, was back in August of this year. And then less than 2 months later, it was announced a second game. Was it always planned to be a second game, or did just the stars align, as it were? How... I would think getting the IP and getting a game off the ground would be, forgive the pun, but a paramount of an achievement. But 2 games, right off the bat and so close to each other, what was that discussion? What was that chain of events that led to 2 games being released essentially at the same time?
We always knew we were going to do 2 games at the same time. So even though the Picard was announced, I think we actually announced it during Gen Con.
Oh, okay.
That this Kickstarter was going to be coming soon, just because we wanted people at Gen Con to know that, something was in the works and they could sign up to hear about, when we fully announce it. But back then we knew we were going to do 2 products simultaneously, offer them both during the Kickstarter, and we've been working on them concurrently from the beginning. So that was not a last minute ad or a last minute request from Paramount. We presented both of these products to them, and we've been working on them concurrently.
Yeah, and it's been nice, and they move at slightly different speeds sometimes. So sometimes we have more to show for one and more to show for the other. So they are set up a little different. I mean, obviously an escape room is different from a murder mystery.
Of course.
So they have different assets and different things that we have to kind of problems to plow through. But yeah, it's always been the idea to go through them both at once.
That's awesome. So you've already mentioned Ann and Spencer, Ann Tibbetts and Spencer Beebe, your writer and puzzle designer, respectively, on these projects. And you guys being on the lighter end of the Trek fandom, I'll say, how insufferable was it to deal with Uber Trekkers, Ann and Spencer, throughout this process?
We never yelled out "get a life" to either one of them.
No, that's wonderful. Of course, all of that in jest, but how did this all come to be? I looked over Anne's resume, tons of sci-fi work, and mentioned that she's a recovering TV writer. So this it seems like a great fit, but crafting a script for a narrative, I imagine, is a little different than crafting something for a game. What were the discussions? We'll start with Anne on the murder mystery game. What was it like working with her and getting feedback and giving direction in terms of the creative process of making Murder on the Titan-A?
Yeah, it was great. She has, as you mentioned, she has a ton of experience writing mysteries. Not only mysteries, but mysteries set in sci-fi settings. And so that's, the story is always paramount for us. If you have a good story, we can pretty easily adapt it to that box setting. We had already done a boxed murder mystery for the Magic the Gathering called Murders at Karloff Manor. And so we had the experience of building that. And we knew that if we brought in someone who was a huge Star Trek fan, knew how to build a murder mystery, knew how to build, these are your suspects, these are, their motives. Once we had that in place, adapting it to, because you're right, it's different adapting it for a boxed murder mystery. You have to allow the players to discover things on their timeline and not your timeline.
Of course.
But because we knew that the story was going to be the most important element, and she helped us with that, and then we came in and helped to adapt. It actually worked really well, and a lot. I gotta say, a lot more quickly and painlessly than I expected, and that's always a nice thing to discover. Is like someone like her who is a complete professional, knows what she's doing, is always a very nice thing to discover.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I came across an article in my research. This has been some time ago, but it formed a wrinkle in my brain, from Wired magazine. This was it was during the run of Voyager, and they had sent a writer to the set to be like, "Oh, what's a day on the set of Voyager like?" And that article quickly turned into how to write for Star Trek.
Mm.
And it is staggering. First of all, it's a fascinating article, but all that to say, being able to write for Star Trek in any aspect, whether it's an episode, a movie, a novel, a game, is no small feat. It's not just pew pew, hey, there's the aliens, and and we save the day. No, that's so much more complicated than that, and I can only imagine the issues that Anne may have had to face putting this together. But it helps that she's not it's not her first rodeo. So
yeah, for sure.
How about working with Spencer on the puzzles for the Mary Celeste? I'm super I recently rewatched a couple of Strange New Worlds episodes in preparation, getting back into our regular content creation, and wow, Strange New Worlds is one of those ones. I won't get too nerdy with it, but like, it is head and shoulders and separate from from everything that's come in the franchise so far, yet so closely tied in. I can't imagine that this was just, oh, I'll throw these little puzzles together and we'll slap a Star Trek delta on it and there we go. I imagine this was just as challenging for Spencer as the mystery aspect may have been for Anne. Talk a little bit about Spencer and his design of the puzzles and working with Spencer and giving feedback, getting feedback, giving direction, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean Spencer's just a joy to work with, but he's a big Star Trek nerd, so it helps. But he's also comes from a background of in-person escape rooms. So and he's done his own projects as well. So he has a lot of pretty hands-on good experience of not just what makes a good puzzle, but how long is it going to take? What skill sets are going to be needed to bring into it? And how to design things so everybody at the table can kind of pitch in and help a little bit, and they know one thing that'll kind of move the plot forward. But it's been great. I mean, he's sort of the sort of mad scientist, run off in a corner, come back with a cool puzzle, and I don't really have a lot of input day to day in it, other than just like this may present a problem for another reason, something, another set of eyes on something.
Yes.
But he's been, really great and self-propelled with it. And for us, for both Spencer and myself, and I think Beadle Grimm as well, is one of the really fun things about Strange New World is it does kind of it harkens back to the original series, in the sense that there's a lot of, here's the opening. This is a world that we have never seen before, never met. Go. It's just, everything about it is the unknown, and discovering, what you can do, or what's going on, and who built the ship, why is it empty now? It's all the discovery process that we both really enjoy from Strange New Worlds, and the sort of fundamental optimism. Well, with the exception of some episodes in Strange New World, it's just not alien. You're discovering something because it'll be neat. It'll help people. It'll increase the knowledge of the universe, and it's probably unlikely to eat you, but it might. But that's what we're trying to. So in a way, it's if you're in that mindset already, it's not that hard to. I mean, everything's hard, but it's easy to keep that in mind when you're building the puzzles. And one of the things that, sorry, I'm blathering on, but the other thing that was like really kind of a big difference for Spencer, and that does have to do with the Star Trek universe, is that as much as possible, this is a paperless society, and escape rooms are usually arts and crafts kind of thing. So what we were able to bring in the murder mysteries is, as well, is this pretty cool technology from a company called Pinfinity, where we can build AR experiences. So it's, you have your handheld computer that you can use to translate languages, or pilot a drone to explore the ship, and really kind of fold those into the puzzles. And Spencer is probably on the leading edge right now of using AR, because I don't think a lot of people have done this yet, to the extent that, we're doing it to fold into a lot of the puzzles. So I do think that is definitely a different thing about this.
That's awesome. We talked a little bit, and you guys have mentioned that, you hired Uber Trek fans to make these, but it sounds like you're not completely clueless to the Star Trek franchise. And we here on the show are very open to whatever level of fandom you have in Star Trek. Great. Welcome. So just to kind of bring it back to Trek a little bit, do either of you have a specific Trek that you enjoy, or a movie, or a show, or a specific memory tied to Trek?
Look, make no mistake, I am a Star Trek fan.
Okay.
I mean, I am old enough to remember standing in line for the first Star Trek movie and being super excited about it, and with the whole V'ger, that to me, that blew my mind in that first movie. I remember being super excited about Next Generation when that came out. That was a huge deal. Watched that religiously. I can't say that I've watched every series since then, because I haven't. But I've certainly watched all of Star Trek Picard, and I've watched all of the movies that have come out. So I am a fan. I am not a Uber, like I know all the details, but I am for sure a fan.
That's awesome. Charlie, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in college, we had a drinking game where Star Trek came on. The first one to name the episode, everybody else had to drink.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, but you had to get the title right, of course. But yeah, so I was a big fan of that. You know, the Wrath of Khan is still one of my favorite movies.
Of
Of
course.
course, I've watched all the Strange New World as well, and I love the connection between those two things, and to see, you know, what really happened to Captain Pike, who's this, you know, like a peripheral figure in one episode of the original
Mhm.
series. Not peripheral, he's central to that episode, but
Right.
and it's been a lot of fun. But that's really kind of where my grounding is the I am old enough to to have watched those original Star Treks when I was a kid and just been like, holy cow, that
Yeah.
is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And
And it's been a lot of fun to see because I was raised on Next Generation, but it's been fun to watch new Trek come about with elements from the J.J. Abrams movies, and a lot of it's been a love letter to the things that have come before, especially Picard, and Strange New Worlds, being such a shout out to the original series, and that's been a lot of fun to see. But yeah, one of the things back in the day, Star Trek, the franchise was actually big on accepting spec scripts from fans, most notably Ronald D. Moore of Battlestar Galactica fame. Beadle and Grimm's is giving folks the opportunity to play test the new escape room game and get their names on it. First of all, thank you. That's incredible. And what was the discussion behind that? What was the reason behind bringing the fans in to test the game?
well, a couple reasons. One, just because it's kind of cool and fun, and we
Yeah.
always would like to be able to do that if we are, you know, buying something, is to be able to kick the tires and help create it, right? Especially since so many of the puzzles are using a, you know, fairly new thing. We wanted to get, you know, a robust set of different eyes on it to make sure that, you know, everybody is, that it works for everybody, not just from a technical level, but from a fun level. And
Mm.
it's actually adding something to the game, adding another, you know, layer of depth to it. The other thing is that, you know, with escape room games in particular, one of the fun things about it is that, you know, you can go 2 hours in a game and just be sort of helping out, and then one thing will be something that lands on something that you have experience with, and you can be the one who drives solving that part. And if the more play testers, the more people we have looking at it, the more kind of areas we can, you know, identify as that this is where people can help out. This is where collaboration is most fun. So
Mm.
that's what we want to do. Bill and I took our families to do a real escape room. This was years and years ago.
Yeah.
And so our kids were in middle school. And so you've got a room full of parents all screaming at each other, trying to figure things out. So they were, you know, my daughter and Bill's son were, you know, kind of hanging back a little bit because, you know, a room full of red-faced adults shouting at each other. But when we get to the end and there's like one puzzle to go, and we looked at it, all the adults looked at it, and we're like, no idea, we're done. And the two of them, who had strangely been in the middle of a cryptography class in middle school, were like, oh, that's a pigpen cipher. Here's how you solve that. And it was just that was their moment, and they still, you know, if you bring that up to them, they're, you know, they're still, you know, light shines out of their eyes, and they had this one big moment. We want to make sure that everybody's got a moment like that around the table for this game.
Awesome. Back in 2019, when Christian Hoffer from comicbook.com wrote about the platinum release of Dragon Heist, one of the topics was the price tag. But given the number of players and the time it takes to complete the campaign, it boils down to less than $4 an hour per player. So given that these new Trek games have a mystery and, puzzles and codes, are these games replayable?
So once you have solved the mystery and you know who the murderer, I'm going to speak for the murder mystery first.
Okay.
Once you know who the murderer is, you will not be able to go back and play that. This is like a traditional at the table murder mystery game. You know now. You are in the know. You can't play it again.
Right.
What I will say is that the game does not have anything in it that gets consumed like an internet code or an item that gets destroyed in use. So if you get the game and you play it and you love it and you want to give it to your brother or your best friend, you're welcome to do that because they will be able to play it just as well as you did. That's not a great business model for us. We would probably make a lot more money if we did have something that was consumed, but it's just one of those things where if you spend the money for the game, you should be able to get some good use out of it.
Yeah, the escape room, on the other hand, will spontaneously combust once you're finished and leave a little layer of ash upon the table. No, it's the same thing for the escape room. As long as you get everything back in the right envelope, you should be able to replay it over and over again. These things are complex enough to build them where they credibly branch in a way that you could replay them over and over would just I think would just kind of blow our budget out, and we would still be developing them 3 years from now to make sure that all the every pathway led somewhere that makes sense somehow, which is kind of a fancy way of saying we're probably not smart enough to pull that off right now, but
We talked about it.
well, that's actually true. We did go back and forth on a lot, but we do that for everything.
That's true. We've talked about everything.
Listen, I would expect nothing less from a group of seasoned DMs of going back.
Right.
Well, but what if this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a combination of that and also poor meeting recording technology. So we frequently fight battles over the same land that we have fought over previously.
Well, another thing, you guys actually got the seal of approval from Captain Liam Shaw, aka Todd Stashwick. He's a huge gamer, and he actually came on while he was promoting ProgCore, and we were able to have a nice chat with him. He's an absolute sweetheart, love him to death. What was his initial response to these, and how did that conversation go?
First of all, I'll just say he is a huge gamer.
Yeah.
When we shot the promo video that he very graciously did for us, we shot it in his game room. And his game room is like nothing I've ever seen. You could make a gaming museum out of his game room. It is nirvana for anybody who loves Star Trek, loves Star Wars, loves D&D. I mean, he has it all. It's an unbelievable space. Let me just start by saying that. But yeah, we know Todd from doing Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill. He knew Matthew. We brought him in. We played with him, and he's another one of those great supportive folks in this great community. And because we've done so much together, he did it as a leap of faith. He was like, "Oh, if Beadle and Grimm's is doing this, I know that I can count on it being something really cool. I'm in. I haven't seen the finished product yet, but we will collaborate throughout the process, and we have." And so he's been super supportive and great to work with.
Really, really, really talented player and DM and actor and all that stuff. So it's fun to work with him.
I will say, because I've already mentioned my love of Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill, his episode is the one that actually brought a tear to the eye. Like his interaction around the table was just really great, really sweet, and just so heartwarming. I was not expecting that.
Now, I just DM'd him in a live show just very recently. And yeah, I mean, the folks who came up to me after that show were like, the level of talent that someone like a Todd Stashwick and the rest of the cast brings is jaw-dropping. And I couldn't agree more. Like, Todd always is right there. Not only does he know the game, but his commitment level is always through the roof. No matter what he decides to do, he is committed to it 110%. And I love gamers like that.
Yeah, I was talking with him about his experiences at Faster Purple Worm, and looking at. We also spoke, in addition to speaking highly of Matthew Lillard, Deborah Ann Wool, and how she runs a table, and her interactions as a player as well. And it's so fascinating to see someone disappear in front of your eyes and embody one of these characters, not only through vocal work, but a couple of mannerisms. They're seated behind a table, but there's a couple things that they can do that really kind of lets oh, and you're watching a different person. This is a very pure form of acting, of just diving in, and through vocal work and a few small gestures and a few small movements, that person's gone, and you're in this adventure. It's so great. Well, fellas, we are almost out of time, so let's let everyone know the big details of the Kickstarter campaign. Like I said, we're in the last week, but what do folks need to know about the Kickstarter for these 2 Star Trek games?
Well, first of all, that the Kickstarter ends on the 22nd. So if they want to get involved before it ends, please look for us on Kickstarter. The Star Trek Murder Mystery, Star Trek Escape Room on Kickstarter, Beadle and Grimm's, you'll find it. Please, we would love your support. And if you like what you see and you have friends in Star Trek societies or fan groups, please share that, because in full transparency, we have not done a great job of reaching all of those Star Trek fans out there. And we are continuing to look for ways to reach people who we know are going to really enjoy these.
They are love letters to Star Trek, of course, but they're also very, very fun games to play if you don't have a deep grounding in the lore. We really try to treat it more as those are treats for people who know it, and everybody else can just kind of keep going with the problem and the task at hand. Yeah, and we're closing in on what we think is going to be a really fun stretch goal is basically a soundtrack to go with this when you play it from Monument Studios. So I think that's going to be a really fun thing for the table, and I hope we get there, because we love to be able to provide that to everybody.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, what can we expect from Beadle Grimm's in the future? More Star Trek, D&D, Star Trek D&D, another season perhaps of Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill, so that those that can't make it out to LA can watch it at home.
If we have our way, if these first two Star Trek products do as well as we hope, we have every intention of doing more.
Yeah.
So that is definitely in our future plans. But as always, we will continue to support the big D&D releases. So we'll continue to support our DMs that we love so much for D&D, and we will continue to support Magic players with hopefully what they consider to be like cool accessory products. What am I forgetting, Charlie?
Just as far as another season of Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill, we would sure love to do that. It's not under our control, but we would love to do it. But that said, we are going to be hitting conventions. So PAX Unplugged, which is coming up in the first week of December, we're going to have a show, and we will be doing Gen Con next year, and a bunch of other to be announced conventions, hopefully. Your wish is semi-granted. Honestly, if you can make the live shows, that's the best way to do it. So make a convention show for Faster Purple Worm for sure.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk to me today. Where can folks find everything you've got going on the interwebs?
www.beadleandgrimms.com.
Sign up for our mailing list, and you'll be the first to know.
Yep. First rule is over communicate with very long, weird emails. So you will hear from us. No, we don't. We're not going to spam.
And I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening. Live long and loot the body.
us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. Hashtag LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?